This is episode 3 of the Have You Heard podcast with my co-host Ryan Doherty. My name is Matthew Soares. And Ryan, could you let us know who you're sitting here with today?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. We are here with Chris Begley and Cass Maddox of Grow Missouri Hemp. Thanks for joining us on Have You Heard? We are out here in Southeast Missouri, and you guys want to tell us more about where you're from and what you've been doing with hemp and why you like it so much?
Well, first off, Ryan, we're in Southwest Missouri.
Southwest Missouri.
Yeah. And that's fine. We're down in a little town called Reed Spring, kind of in the Branson area. A lot of people know where Branson is. We're homesteaders, want to be hemp farmers. Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing.
And you guys, Cass, you guys use hemp on your farm in multiple ways, but you want to tell us a little bit about how you use it
We use it for our bedding and our chicken nests for the eggs. It's a lot healthier. It's 400 times more absorbent than straw, which gets nasty.
4 times, not 400.
It said, okay. Percent.
400%.
Yeah.
That's
There
right.
we go. But yeah, it just, my chickens love it. And so we just kept using it and then studied that it was a lot better for them. And so we try to offer it to some more homesteaders.
My thing is I've been researching hempcrete for a long time, and I want to build structures with it. So we finally got some hemp herd. We decided that we was going to use it for our chickens because we really didn't have anything to build, and then we just started building structures around the farm, and yeah, we realized it was all about hempcrete for me. I mean. That's where it started a long time ago for me. It was hempcrete. So I don't know how we get on chicken bedding.
Well, I'm just bringing up the uses. So you guys use it for chicken bedding and for building. And have you ever grown hemp, or you guys work with homesteaders to grow your own hemp as well?
Well, yeah, this is our second year of trying to grow hemp in Southwest Missouri. It's really hard to find a good variety that we can grow. The only one we had one out of 5 grow this year, and it did okay. We haven't even harvested it yet because I want to wait for it to. Actually, we harvested a little bit this weekend. We got to let it cut it down, let it ret for a little bit, and I'm just going to manually process it. That's our biggest thing is we don't have any processing in this area, so we can't really get very much herd. That's our whole issue. If I had a lot of herd, we could do chicken bedding and we could do building. But like me and Ryan's been talking about, the supply chain is not very good here in Southwest Missouri yet.
So tell us a little bit more about your guys' homestead dream of being able to grow your own hemp house, or spread that idea to other homesteaders.
Well, that goes way back when I bought the property. I started this whole idea was just called the Big Green Project. My idea was we're right here in a very high tourist area with Branson. And at the time, there was not very many places for people to kind of get away. They could go to the Branson area, but they couldn't get out in the woods. And I wanted to build just like a cob house, a straw bale house, maybe an underground structure, a cordwood house. And then obviously then hempcrete became available probably about when 2014 Farm Bill started. That's when I really started researching that. I put all my energy into the hempcrete, and then now we can finally do it. But my goal is to build little structures around different types of hemp homes and show people they can come and stay in them, and we can show them how we did it. They could attend workshops, and then we can take that particular model and take it to their property and build it for them and do workshops and things like that. But basically, my whole goal is to build hempcrete houses on my property, and then just let people come and enjoy the Ozark Mountains and stay in our little hempcrete houses. That was my original goal, and just teach people how to do it. I really just want to. It's so amazing. I just want to show people how to do it and let them learn, and that therefore they feel accomplished whenever they can build their own hempcrete house.
And basically just learning the benefits of having the hempcrete and using it for building material opposed to structures we use today with concrete and wood and everything.
It's all about sustainable living. Homesteading, we've been homesteading for about 8 years. We've had the goats, we've had the chickens, we still have the chickens. We've had the guineas, we've had the turkeys, we've had the ducks, we've had the geese. We've learned that pretty much chickens are about the only thing you really need around a homestead as far as to keep your sanity. Goats are a lot of fun, but they're pretty destructive. But we do a lot of things on our property besides just homesteading. We would love to teach people. We actually have a survival school on the property that is pretty interesting, but that's a whole different story. But we just want to teach people. That's the whole thing. Is my whole goal, and it's probably my downfall. Is I just want to show people what I know and teach people things that I've learned because it's such an interesting industry to be in right now.
Yeah, it's I think really exciting seeing talking about micro supply chains. We're always talking about putting up big fiber processing facilities and supplying large markets, but in regions like here in the rolling hills of Southwest Missouri and up like where you're at, Matt, in Massachusetts, maybe models like this make a lot more sense. Pretty cool, Matthew. You see things like this coming up to Massachusetts potentially.
Yeah. Because I mean, there's not much like large scale agriculture here in Massachusetts where there's not many farms that are, thousands of acres. So in the western part of the state is kind of a lot more rural. So yeah, I definitely see like an opportunity for something like that. And I know years ago I saw some things about like portable decortication machines, and I don't know how feasible that type of stuff really is. In terms of if there's actually any that are operating now and touring the country. Ryan would know more about that, but I'm curious. With Chris, you mentioned that you're really passionate about teaching people what you know about homesteading and hempcrete specifically. Was the workshop that y'all just did this weekend, was that the first workshop that you've had on your property?
It is, yeah. That's the first one that we have hosted. I've been to a couple others, out over the last year or so, but yeah, that was the first one that we have hosted on our property. We actually built it's a little outhouse, shower house is kind of what we did. It was a simple little design, and I didn't know how many people were going to show up, so I was kind of keeping it so that 10 people could stay busy, and we worked. I mean, we kept everybody busy pretty much for the full day, and everybody got different stations. So yeah, that was actually the first workshop that we've hosted on this property. We hope to have another one in the spring to build maybe like an actual tiny house, something with that we could actually people could stay in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of like Airbnb style property with just different tiny homes and stuff like that on the property made out of hemp. Because then it's like, okay, one, you come enjoy the Ozark Mountains, have a nice vacation, stay in a cool new little home, but then also kind of use it as a way to educate people on, okay, this is actually what this house is made out of. This is why it's so warm here it's 30 degrees outside. It's still warm in here. It's air quality is better. Just kind of use it as a way to educate people. So that's awesome. I love the idea of that. It was this like outhouse shower combo. Was this the first hemp lime structure that's on your property?
No, the first one I did was we live we call it a barn dominium or a shouse, some people call it. And it originally started as my workshop, my shop for my business. But then I decided I wanted to make it into a home. So I built it into a house, and we had a garage door that was pretty drafty, and we made that our living room. So I just took the garage door out and used the hemp lime to make an 8-inch by 10-foot by 10-foot wall with a couple windows in it. We put some bottles that can let the light in. That was the first major thing I had done, and then I did a little bit on a new addition to it. But I learned like what not to do on that, and that might even be another story. But yeah, I've done a little bit, and I've done about everything wrong that you could do. So now I know what to do right around the place. So, yeah. But no, that wasn't the first one. I actually kind of felt confident enough to teach people because I'd done quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So the other structures are like renovations that you did where it wasn't like a new build. You just kind of added hemp to an existing structure.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It was my shop. I just wanted to hempcrete the front wall, the north facing wall, and then it's just a metal building, but it just has the one wall. We just kind of playing with mixes and things like that.
It made a huge difference in the temperature and regulating the temperature in that living room space. We couldn't even go in there during the first winter before the hempcrete wall was up. And then after we put it up, there's no heat source in there except for a pellet stove. And
it was fantastic.
We were almost too warm at points, and we had a pretty cold winter.
Really cold. It was a great experiment, and it worked really, really well.
Yeah, I've heard questions about that from people about using Hemplime for just one wall section, and just like an anecdotal in being in the room myself, seeing the performance of it, it definitely works as a single wall insulating system, even if you're adding it as a renovation or adding it to existing wall structure or something like that. But can you tell us a little bit more about what goes into planning one of those workshops and what you kind of had to do beforehand as far as preparing structure and materials, and if someone was looking to host something or do something similar to that?
Sure, yeah. So I did the HURD that I was using. I picked up at a NOCO in 2020. So it's a couple years old, but I've just had it. It's in bags. I've been having it stored. So actually, I had the product that I had. It's a French HURD. So I had some left over. So I'd had that product from before. The lime I sourced from just a local big box store. Menards is where I get that miracle lime. So as far as that goes, that was the easy part, having the material. I'm a builder by trade, electrician builder by trade. So building the structure was not a problem. I just sourced that from the local hardware, our local lumber yard. But Cassie, she's the marketing girl about that. So she's the one that put everything together. We attended a homesteading expo a couple months ago, got a lot of information there. But as far as putting the workshop on, it's having the HURD was probably that was the only reason I could put the workshop on, because I actually had the product that I'd been saving for a while. But no, it was actually really, really easy. I mean, it was not hard to do. And people are interested all over the place. It's just a matter of getting them to a central location.
I think the Homesteading Expo really struck all the attention because we had an email list, and the email list ended up getting flipped over, written on some more papers. I mean, we had 50 interested people in the hempcrete and building with it. So that made it easy to kind of blast it out there for people that were interested. And then we put it on our Facebook page and our website and different things like that. A lot of people were interested, but they weren't quite ready to just, jump in yet. So they said, well, maybe along the next one will be. After they saw our progress and everything that we did as they followed it, they're more interested to come in on the second one. So it would be a bigger build, probably.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know what to expect, but you had like a structure, you put a wood frame up and everything like that. So I think the biggest thing, a lot of people, the biggest hurdle with building with hemp is getting all those materials together and knowing what you also had metakaolin too, or you had
I used some metakaolin that I got from a concrete countertop store a while back, and we just added that to try to let it set up a little. Pretty much just kind of experimenting with it. I wanted something to keep it's gonna let it harden a little faster, so they say. I mean, it worked on my big front wall, so I thought we would try it again. This is basically just hemp and lime.
And then you rented a mixer, so that's really the biggest. Having some of the proper equipment, having the mixer and the tampers, and knowing how to work with forms up the frame, having some framing experience, which you luckily have.
I probably take for granted that I do have quite a bit of experience in building things that are abnormal and not that everybody something out of the box. So yeah, that I guess maybe that took a lot more thought into it than I think about, because I just do it. But yeah, forming it was probably the most important part on that.
When we walked up, it was like ready to go. All the mix kind of coming. That's what a lot of people kind of want to see. I've never seen. And your mix was, it all, you make the snowball, and then your packs, every single form you lifted looked really, really good and professional. So just I think it's awesome when people are able to see it. Everybody there that had not seen building with hemp before was amazed and enamored with the process and how simple, and that we were working at a construction site with no hard hats, and there was dogs there, and it was very friendly environment to work. Really cool thing to be a part of and to see. Hopefully, you guys will, like you said, do another project, more of a larger structure up in that same area.
Yeah.
And you guys kind of have like a lot of stuff to do there on the property, and then obviously there's a lot to do in the area of Branson altogether. But can you talk about too your other things that happen there on the property with the mushroom harvest and things that are the train tunnel and things that are like the epic portrait, or what do they call it?
That would be one of Cassie's draws. She painted that tunnel. You were standing right on top, there, Ryan. That's where you were standing a few days ago. Go ahead.
The train tunnel draws a lot of attention to Branson because of its history. It was hand blasted back in 1903, I believe, by some bat guano that they harvested out of the cave from Silver Dollar City. It goes way back into some history, so it's kind of fun to talk to people about it. And whenever they hear the history, they realize that they're standing on top of it. But we invite people out for different events. We've had different music festivals, different camping events like the Survival School. We host the Camping for a Rock House Music Festival. They've gone on 16 years. I think this is 16th annual year. And then we have our own Morel Mushroom Festival, which is where we bring in people and we advertise it as a mushroom hunt. They come in and they buy a bag, they have a map, and they go out into the woods. And we found that we've produced, harvested thousands of mushrooms through the years past, and just decided to start sharing it because some people go out mushroom hunting and they never find anything. So we kind of give them a little place where they know they can come. And then at the end, we have a little cookout and some live bands play, and everybody enjoys it and camps out, and it's a good time.
We've done a few music festivals over the years. We really like to entertain. Actually, I have this 60-acre piece of property, and when God gave me this, He told me to share it with as many people as possible. And I've been very blessed and very lucky to be able to do that, and just share it. And it's a lot of property. And I just love the people's faces when they come down and just can wander through the trails. We have about 3.5, maybe 4 miles worth of trails, some ridges, some draws, where it's kind of a lot of the wildlife. So I just really enjoy sharing it with people. So that's why we have so many different events.
We just recently hosted a wedding that was beautiful, and so it was all nice and set up. They had a little dance floor, and they just carried on and on about how much they loved it. Beautiful piece of property here in the Ozark Mountains, and it's kind of hidden right here by Table Rock Lake. So yeah, we've done a lot on that property.
Well, that would be an amazing place to, I think, host some more hemp events and potentially have some hemp places to debut. That's kind of the hopes, is to have people like yourselves getting more hemp structures that people can experience in places as such, that just add to the experience. And that is awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about what Grow Missouri Hemp's initiative and what is going on in Missouri with the growing of hemp?
Well, we just recently went to the USDA instead of the Missouri Department of Agriculture. Missouri has, from what I understand, and I haven't researched it a whole lot, but Missouri has dropped their hemp program, so they are now one of the states that are going over to the regulations of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. As far as Grow Missouri Hemp started is whenever I knew that we were going to be able to grow industrial hemp, that I wanted to be help farmers and realize what hemp could do for their property. And then I just wanted the herd. That's basically, it was kind of maybe a little selfish of me, but I wanted to show farmers or tell farmers they could grow it. And then, once the 2018 Farm Bill, 2020 we could grow in Missouri, and everybody went straight to the CBD market, then it was really hard to talk to farmers into growing, 1 million plants an acre for the herd and the fiber. Now that's kind of changing. I think farmers are seeing that they can do that, but that's where Grow Missouri Hemp came in. Is let's grow Missouri Hemp. We were in the history of Missouri. We were the second second, more hemp than the Kentucky, back when it was legal. So, but anyway, and now it's kind of transformed into let's just build with it. The Big Green Project is kind of where Grow Missouri Hemp comes from. Is Grow Missouri Hemp the Big Green Project is to grow, if I can grow my own home, grow 4 acres of hemp, I could grow one house a year. I think that would be a great model for people around the country to see. Hey, it could be done. Although processing is where we're not doing very well in Southwestern Missouri right now for processing equipment.
So you guys have an idea of number of acres? Are there processing areas in Missouri that are more optimal for processing? Processors coming to those regions? Are there regions closest? Do you guys think Kansas will be your closest supply of local or domestic materials?
Well, right now there's the guys out in Great Bend, Kansas, and there's also on the south or the east part of the state. We have another company over there. I think they're doing pretty well as far as providing HURD. In our area, we would have to go probably about 45 miles north to get to the farmland. We're more in the mountainous region down here. So if whatever we grew down in this area would be small plots, maybe 4 or 5 acre plots. Don't think it could really, some of the places you can't even get a baler up to. So it'd have to be more old world style harvesting, I think. Once we go up north, then there's lots of farmland in Missouri. Missouri's got amazing farmland. But here, we would probably be about 30 to 40 miles north of us to where I think an optimal processing equipment would be, maybe over in the Joplin area, Springfield area, or maybe even up in the Moberly, Columbia area would be a good spot for processing with the farms up there.
I'm personally so interested in hemp being used by homesteaders, as that was the original, in the 1700s. Homesteading wasn't just a fad or a passion or hobby by many people. It was a necessity and way of life. And hemp was used and called the frontier fiber, and used to clear land, and used by the colonialists to pay their taxes, as well as many necessities like paper and clothing and things were made from it. And they processed hemp obviously at a much smaller scale. When we talk about putting up processing, or the processors that are in St. Louis or out in Kansas, they're talking about doing tons of material an hour and processing thousands of acres. Do you guys think that there will be an interest? You guys know the homesteading crowd much better than I do. Do you think that homesteaders will be interested in processing their own fibers? I know there's a really small system called a taproot. There's a group up in Nova Scotia that makes it, and they have some communes or small communities that process hemp and flax on a very small scale. Do you see that being people growing hemp on 5 to 10 acre or even smaller plots? And back in the day, they used to call it homespun hemp, and I've always wanted to do a brand, someone run with that. Homespun hemp be very cottage industry, very small scale, but to your local, to your neighbors in your homesteading area. But that is something I would hope would come back. I know they're kind of restricted by the licensing issues. If that goes away with fiber hemp being exempted potentially, do you guys see that being something people will be interested in doing and using the materials from that?
As far as homesteaders, yes. I mean, if they could grow their own hemp and we could have a small little processor that would go to their own, their location. Obviously, that's
portable, maybe, that we could take from homestead to homestead.
That's the golden. That would be the golden product. I mean, because that would be great. I'm not sure that homesteaders,
they would be all about that. They want the labor intensive, home life, but getting it to a building grade for them to be able to build with it, it would be a lot of labor intensive work, whereas they can go through a supply chain, if they couldn't get it to grow and to process on those small scales.
But I think if they could grow and we had something to bring to them, or they had a local place they could bring it to, then yes, they would definitely be in. I mean, homesteaders are all about the hemp plant. They're not the ones that are out there, preaching hemp or anything like that. But as far as them wanting to use it, they are most homesteaders are on board with going back to, and a lot of them know the history of hemp as well.
And a lot of them want to use every part of the hemp plant, not just the HURD, but they want to use the seeds for, their meals and their nutrition, and they want to use the fiber, and they want to use all parts of it.
So most of it would be probably hand harvested with a small scale here in this area.
Yeah. The way you guys talk about, I think the model that might make the most, I mean, there's obviously the hemp breaks and hand harvesting and hand processing and taking it at some sort of scale, but maybe finding the highest concentration of small farm homesteaders like in Pennsylvania or here in Southwest Missouri, and putting like maybe even a state funded like tolling center, like they used to have grain mills back in the day where you kind of come with your grain and grind it and then take it back and turn it into things. You could maybe, hemp fiber processing is not rocket science. Maybe we can they have in Alberta, a kind of a plant that people can bring their own materials to and have their stuff run. Would be quite phenomenal to see in different regions of the country. Matthew, do you have a homesteading culture up there in the Northeast at all that you're aware of?
Not that I'm like tapped into at all. I think there's a very small community of homesteaders. Probably not as much in Massachusetts, but more so up in northern New England. We're talking Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. But that's interesting. When you just mentioned that, like in the cannabis industry, toll processing of cannabis extracts is like a popular business model where you basically just processing for a fee. People bring their product, their material, you process it, they take it back with them. I had never even thought of that as like a potential model for industrial hemp processing, but that's interesting for this particular use case of homesteaders. Like if you're going to grow 10 acres and you have a use for that fiber, the hurd, the grain, that would be a model that would make sense. So that's interesting. Now, the portable decortication systems, Ryan, is the Taproot, is that what that is? Is it portable, or is that like a stationary system?
Yeah, it is. It's more stationary. It kind of uses what's called like a magazine style of processing, where you actually take the fibers and you got to make them all uniform length, and then you put them in like lock them in to metal like screwed on pipe kind of things, and you put it through the system, like you load it up and put it through like a magazine, like you would put bullets into a magazine, kind of load up the stocks into a magazine and send it through, and it does the breaking and then scutchling and then hacking all on like on a single chain it's kind of set up very uniquely, but you kind of got to prepare. It's very labor intensive, that one. As far as mobile processing, you're really labor intensive, just because if you're doing things mobile, it means you got to move the material usually by hand, from station to station. So there's a lot of material movement. But I know, especially our innovative American homesteaders could figure out ways to make it doable. I just always kind of am not a big supporter of mobile processing, because it takes a lot of steps. Using air and things to dedust and to clean your material. So unless you can jimmy rig something up real clever on a real small, movable platform, but it's feasible, with our 18 wheelers and the kind of size of stuff you're able to move around today. Definitely feasible to put something together, but I think we master the art of fiber processing stationary first before looking to really make it very small and mobile. But that is right now, the large early scale processing hemp breaks were somewhat mobile. The shocks of hemp were left to rot out in the field, and the decortication system, or the hemp break, was brought out into the field, but then you'd have to bring all the fiber back to a cleaning station and do the next step, and then bring it to the next step and the next step. All we're trying to do is, transportation is so expensive today that we try to put everything as close to each other as possible. But yeah, hopefully people are thinking of, and we were thinking about building a hemp break here to process some of your hemp, still will, hopefully, but that is still to be figured out, how to best process the hemp.
I was trying to think of that mobile one that's
that's
Latvina.
The HURD master.
The HURD master, that's what it was.
So
I haven't seen anything about it for a while, but when we first started, I remember seeing that around quite a bit, whether he was traveling from farm to farm, but I don't know what, how
And the
clean
herd
he could
master
get it.
basically is like the hemp brake is just like a single brake. The rollers are basically a brake going over and over and over again. So the herd master is basically an automated hemp brake. So you're still only performing that first step of breaking the hemp. You still have to do some more cleaning and traditionally you would break it and then scutch it and then hackle it. And all that stuff was done on a long fiber, but we have a lot more learning to do on growing the right types of fibers, because if you're working with really crappy material, it won't hold together. It'll fall apart and break to pieces if you try to scutch it and stuff. But do you see any small scale processing out there, Matthew? Have you had any experience yourself doing that?
No, nope. Just what's potentially happen in the future up in Vermont, but nothing that's up and running or that I've seen really at all in New England.
Yeah, it's trying to have processing. We learned really fast that was going to be our biggest hurdle in the hemp industry. When I got in, I was like, okay, I need some herd. Where's the herd at? And he was like, oh, I got some from France. And so that's where I started, and that's what I've been using. I got a bunch of hammer milled herd, thinking I could build with it. It's not clean enough. I learned, pretty quick that super sacks of hammer milled herd does not doesn't do very well. Lots of dust. So we've been sifting a lot of that out and getting our hemp bed, our chicken bedding out of that. But yeah, it's as far as processing. If we could come up with a small processor or a local processor in a 100-mile radius, then we can maybe talk people into growing 5-10 acres of it and then taking it back and using it on their own. Because once the people learn about the chicken bedding, they absolutely love it. I mean, we didn't really know, but we kind of thought about it or found it out on accident. Chickens and rabbits, and then now we use it all the time. So the homesteaders really like it for the bedding, for their horses, for their animals, and then building with it was something that we've learned. They're really interested in it. But they're really almost more interested in it for the bedding and stuff for their animals, vegetables, things like that.
Yeah, from your experience using it as animal bedding, what about it is better than the alternative, whether it be straw or whatever you've used in the past? Like, what makes it ideal for you to use hemp over the alternatives?
The absorbency is the number one thing. Whenever you have straw, and in my experience with my coops, I would have to go in and pull all the straw out. I would have gloves and everything. It would get just really, not pleasant to be in there. And it would get to the point where the chickens wouldn't even go in there if I didn't have it like just right for them. And I was cleaning it out 3 and 4 times a year. And with the herd, it just absorbs it and then it dries out, and then they're just scratching it and doing their, chicken thing, and it just sweeps right out. It composts into the ground, and then I just lay down more. I don't have to do a whole process of raking it out and cleaning it and hauling it off to compost. It's just really easy to work with, and they just they love it. The dust is really low if we sift it like we did. And so, and then also the fiber that we separated from the hammer milled herd, we've used for the nesting. So they go in there and they like that soft fiber for their eggs.
And then even the third step is the dust that we got off of this hammer milled herd.
Right.
We can lay it down, and they love to dust in it. They're not out dusting in the dirt. They go in the hemp, and then they just like to dust in that too. So it's really interesting.
They do dust baths. If you don't know anything about chickens, the way they clean themselves is they roll around in the dust and then shake their feathers off. And so that helps to absorb the oil from their skin to keep them, comfortable. And they really like it for that. It's also, we talked about using it for garages, like mechanical garages, where it is absorbent for the oil spills and different things that they have. Our mechanic wants to try it out, so I was going to take him a bag of the dust and see. Haven't gotten that yet, so it's still in the works for experimenting on that end. But we've seen it before.
That is phenomenal. I've never heard of a premium hemp dust chicken bath. And that's one of the
Maybe you're onto something there, right?
we could open up a chicken spa. It sounds like they have these traveling shows where they have like the American chicken competitions. Everyone tries to make the chicken look exactly like the pictures from this book. It's big, and it's a big chicken bedding market right there that hasn't been tapped into. Actually, some people have tapped, but that sounds like chicken spa needs to. I'm always I'm enamored by the amount of products and uses. Obviously, people always quote like the 50,000 or whatever uses of hemp, but it truly, people will continue as the supply becomes available. There will continue to be more and more things developed from it. Are there any other cool or interesting hemp uses that you guys have discovered with your bags of hemp or the homesteaders you've heard? I know we were working with some roots at the workshop that people were trying to make some tinctures, and you guys have a survival school that people make. I'm sure if you left them with some hemp plants, they would turn back some medicines and tinctures from it. What else do you think?
The survivalists used the fiber and they made their ropes. So they have to make a certain amount of things during their class, and they would take the fibers and make some really strong rope.
Yeah, so I haven't seen what all they made, but the guys that are up there in the primitive camp, the hemp, our little hemp plot is just right there. Probably about 100 yards away. And I told them, hey, while you're here, you can go over there and use whatever this hemp, do some research, figure out what you can use it for. I don't know about what they've used any of the flowers or the seeds yet, but I know the other day they were doing their bow drills, which is where you have to start a fire with the materials that you find out in the woods. And a couple of them went over there and they took the hemp and they peeled the fiber off and they used it for their bow drills. And they were the only ones that was able to I don't know if they actually lasted long enough for to get a fire going because it was so green, but theirs did last the longest from all the other different types of products that they were using.
They're kindling.
So I don't know that the survival guys up there are using it for different things. I haven't really got a chance to go up there and ask them what all they've used it for, but they have harvested some of it and are using it for their little experiments in their primitive camp.
That is awesome.
Interesting.
We hear there's like stories of the samurai used to, defend hemp fields back in Japan back in the day, and they made their armor from tightly woven hemp that they would, harvest wild, and it was really rough. And if you weave it really tight, it's super, super strong. You can weave metal brackets into it and stuff like that. But they also make not only the string to carry their money from, but also practice bows, so bow and arrows. Maybe the survival students will we had like an art class going on, or they made artwork from all over the materials from all over the woods. Hopefully next time it'll incorporate. But the research is being done out here in the hills of Missouri, seeing what other uses can come from the hemp plant. And
Ryan, this is the first year we've actually been able to grow any sort of substantial hemp at all on the property. Last year was completely we had just some from Canada. They just didn't work here. This year I was able to actually find a variety that actually works. So we'll spend all winter playing with the crop that I have up there once we get it harvested.
Incredible.
Yeah, I'll tell you more what we can find out then, I guess.
Yes.
But yeah, my main concern was building. We found the bedding on accident, kind of, sort of. I can tell you this: if I'm with all my little projects I have going on around the farm, if I have any hemp herd laying around, no matter where the chickens lay their eggs, they will find that hemp herd and they will lay an egg wherever that hemp herd is around the property. That's no joke. Where there's always an egg in my little bag of hemp, and
in the wood shop,
it doesn't matter where the hemp herd's at. There's going to be an egg there if I leave it there for a couple of days. So the chickens really like that.
That is, it sounds like just the perfect complement, using the seed for feed and the herd for bedding, and maybe building the chicken coop out of or using the fiber for insulation, or for doing something with the chicklets or the baby chicks. When you're taking care of the whole plant can be used for the chicken caretaking, but that is just another homesteading that can be used at a commercial scale of poultry production, I'm sure, as well. But it totally makes sense for hemp homestead use. But what else were you going to say, Chris?
I said they can also use the stalks as like a cage. You can build it for cages, kind of like bamboo, or fencing, or the stalks. If you don't don't process them,
Yeah.
and they're obviously pretty hard, kind of like bamboo. So you can move it for thatch roofing, things like that. I think that I'm going to try to experiment with, over the winter. I believe what we can do without processing the hemp. How can we use the stock, just for how long will it last? Just as like kind of a bamboo fence or something like that for the chicken coop, basically. Yeah, sorry.
Anything else on your end, Matthew?
No other questions. I think it's cool. I haven't thought about kind of like the development of the industry in this capacity from like a homesteading angle. And it's awesome that you're able to kind of find all of these use cases for the plant that, it's not just because it's hemp. It's not like a novelty thing. It's, it's legitimately making your life easier on the farm. It's making your animals happier. It's like literally, improving the quality of everyone's lives on the farm. So it's cool to see that. And to think that this can kind of help propel the industry forward on a more like real grassroots level. I'm excited to kind of see the continued development of your homestead and people that you might inspire in your area through these workshops and events that you have on the farm. This is it's interesting. I'm excited to kind of just stay tuned to everything that you guys are doing.
We mainly do everything on Facebook, which is Grow Missouri Hemp, the Big Green Project. We also have our little venue is called Old Wilderness Canyon. So we're old, so Facebook is pretty much what we do everything on. I haven't figured Instagram out quite yet.
We do have a webpage too that is growmissourihemp.com. It's kind of in the works, but it's got the the skeletal form for it that I can build off of as we continue. But
awesome. Yeah, so we'll link that stuff on this video and in the description and stuff, so people can find you guys and follow along your journey as well.
And they can always email growmissourihemp@gmail.com. So there's other routes.
So before we wrap up, Cass and Chris, tell us what outside of the building and chicken coop arena, what other product are you excited? What most excited, I'd say, about seeing made out of hemp?
Well, you put me on the spot that one. For me, anything in the building industry is going to pique my interest. Obviously, the hemp rebar, things like that we can incorporate into the building industry is what I'm going to be most excited about. Things I can personally use on my property, or just to help the industry grow. So it's so much fun to see what all's coming down the pipe. Every day there seems like there's something else in this industry. But yeah, I mean, I think anything in the building industry is what maybe a hemp solar panel would be amazing.
Some batteries and the structure.
Now, batteries would be great, fantastic. I've heard a lot about batteries. I haven't seen anything about batteries personally, but I think that batteries would be great since we're going completely green in the country. That would be great. Batteries would be good.
And Cass?
Well, on a large scale, plastics, would be great. But I personally am a screen printer and in the apparel arena over here. And so the more clothes that I'm finding that have hemp product in them, they just print nicer. They're just funner to have and to wear. It's more comfortable, of course, and it screen prints very nicely, just smooth as butter.
So hemp ink would be great.
Hemp ink.
That's so funny you say that. There is Hemp Black is working on Carbon Black. They make a black ink that they've printed, and they carbonize the hemp and just make it into pure carbon, basically, and then put it into like a pigment. Their whole premise is to replace Carbon Black, which is a pigment in black ink and a lot of other like tires and stuff like that, but it's typically made from byproduct of petroleum production, and it's carcinogenic, and so they're trying to make a plant-based, non-carcinogenic, hemp-based ink. And I think that's I don't know if it's that scale for t-shirt printing, but that is definitely they used to use hemp oil as a base for lots of paints and stuff
A
like
lot
that.
of them
But that
are
is a very realistic
oils. Yeah.
goal, Cass, and I think someone might be working on it. I think one other thing, these guys have been a host to myself and many other people at their property, and they had some kayaks out there. And I think one amazing thing would have a hemp kayak on the side of one of your hemp mini homes out there.
That would be
Have
fantastic.
the whole
Yeah.
hemp house hemped out and hiking trails all around. I'd like to stay there. I'd like to.
You can come and stay back anytime, Ryan. It's been a pleasure having you.
Appreciate that. Well, I appreciate you guys joining us here on Have You Heard? And another episode with myself, Ryan Doherty, and Matthew Soares. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you guys about the most versatile natural resource being investigated by your American homesteaders here in the great state of Missouri. Pleasure, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.